The vast expanse of the Galactic Alliance stretched across countless star systems, a testament to millennia of expansion and conquest. Massive ships traversed the void between stars, carrying diplomats, soldiers, and merchants. Trade flourished, wars were fought and settled, and species rose to prominence or faded into obscurity. But as the Alliance grew, so too did its cold indifference toward worlds deemed strategically insignificant. In the outer reaches of the Thalian sector, far from the bustling central planets, the world of Telmaris hung, suspended in space like a forgotten jewel. Once, it had been home to the Venari, a species renowned throughout the nearby systems for their healing abilities and profound connection to their ecosystem. Their cities, graceful structures of living wood and crystalline spires, have been centers of botanical knowledge and ecological wisdom. Now, Telmaris was dying. The once vibrant forests had faded to ashen gray. The crystal-clear lakes that had reflected twin moons now lay stagnant and murky. And the Venari themselves were vanishing, their population dwindling year by year, their calls for help growing fainter with each passing season. The Alliance Council had classified Telmaris as non-intervention status decades ago. Ecological collapse of non-participating worlds falls outside our jurisdiction, the decree stated. Resources must be allocated based on strategic value. With those cold words, Telmaris was abandoned to its fate. But not everyone was content to let worlds die in silence. Colonel Riva Solon stood on the observation deck of the exploration vessel Kaladin, watching the stars streak by as they traveled through hyperspace. At 42, Riva was considered young for her command, but her reputation for humanitarian missions beyond the frontier had earned her both respect and skepticism among her peers. Her dark hair was cut short in military fashion, but her eyes carried a warmth that regulation could not extinguish. "Colonel, we're receiving a transmission." Lieutenant Mora's voice came through the comm system. "It's unusual." Riva turned from the viewport. "Put it through to my private terminal." In her quarters, Riva activated the screen. Static flashed, then cleared to reveal a sight that made her breath catch. A Venari child, skin the pale blue of a morning sky, gasped for breath. Its large, luminescent eyes blinked rapidly as it raised a six-fingered hand against a harsh light source. Behind the child, shadows moved in ways shadows shouldn't. Then, without warning, the transmission cut to black. Riva immediately contacted Alliance Command. "The signal's origin has been identified as Telmaris," she reported. "Request permission to investigate and render assistance." The response was immediate and cold. "Negative, Colonel. Telmaris is classified non-intervention. The Venari never applied for Alliance membership. Their problems are their own. With respect, sir, they appear to be in dire distress. Your mission parameters are clear, Colonel. Continue to your assigned destination. This matter is closed." The transmission ended, leaving Riva staring at a blank screen. For several long moments, she remained motionless, the weight of protocol pressing against her conscience. Then, with deliberate movements, she tapped her comm badge. "Navigation, set course for Telmaris. Maximum speed." Lieutenant Mora appeared in the doorway, her expression tense. "Colonel, I couldn't help overhearing. That's a direct violation of orders." Riva met her gaze steadily. "Log your objection, Lieutenant. But sometimes, being human means remembering when to disobey." The Kaladin emerged from hyperspace within view of Telmaris. From orbit, the planet's distress was evident. Vast stretches of landmass had turned gray-brown, with only isolated patches of green remaining. Atmospheric readings showed elevated levels of methane and carbon dioxide, consistent with mass vegetation die-off. "Prepare a landing party," Riva ordered. "Full environmental protection gear. We don't know what we're walking into." The shuttle descended through turbulent cloud layers. As they broke through to lower altitudes, the devastation became clearer. Forests stretched out below them, but the trees stood like skeletons, leafless and gray. Rivers had changed course, leaving behind dried, cracked beds. And the Venari cities, once marvels of bioengineering, appeared abandoned. They landed in what had once been a central plaza in the largest visible settlement. As the team disembarked, the silence struck them immediately. No birds called. No insects hummed. The only sound was a low, distant rumble that seemed to come from beneath the planet's surface. "Spread out," Riva commanded. "Look for survivors." The team moved through empty streets, passing buildings formed from living wood that had now petrified into bizarre, twisted shapes. Inside homes, they found personal belongings abandoned. Mid-use, meals never finished, artwork half completed, beds still made. "It's as if they just vanished," Science Officer Darian observed, examining a workstation where tools lay neatly arranged beside an unfinished carving. Lieutenant Mora's voice crackled over the comm. "Colonel, you need to see this." They convened at what appeared to be a central gathering hall. Its walls were covered in a script none of their translation programs could decipher, but the images accompanying the text told a grim story. They depicted a darkness spreading over Telmaris, consuming Vaynari one by one, leaving behind only empty shells. "Technologies your alliance has forgotten. Together, we created a failsafe, should the silent march ever weaken." The Vaynari pointed a trembling finger downward. "Deep beneath this temple lies Project Threnody." But to reach it, another tremor, stronger than the last, interrupted Island's words. Cracks appeared in the temple floor, and the clear pool began to ripple violently. "We're out of time," Island gasped. "The wither rises. If you truly wish to help, follow me quickly." The ancient Vaynari led them through a concealed passage behind the pool, into a spiraling tunnel that descended deep into the planet's crust. As they descended, the rumbling grew louder, punctuated by sounds that chilled Riva's blood. Not quite screams, but something worse, like the sound of identity being stripped away layer by layer. "What you hear are the last echoes of my people," Island explained, voice tight with grief. "As the wither consumes them, their final moments reverberate through the planetary consciousness." The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, its walls embedded with technology unlike anything Riva had ever seen. Not the sleek, standardized systems of the Alliance, but something more organic, where circuitry merged with living tissue. At the center stood a massive structure resembling a tree, but made of metal and crystal, its branches extending to touch the cavern's ceiling, its roots disappearing into the rock floor. "Project Threnody," Island announced. "A memory vault." "What does it do?" Lieutenant Mora asked, approaching the structure cautiously. "It contains digitized memories of warriors, poets, and sages long dead, both Vaynari and human. Within lies the collective consciousness that once imprisoned the wither." Island's clouded eyes fixed on Riva. "But it requires a living conduit to activate, a will receiver who can channel those memories." "And let me guess," Riva said grimly. "That's a one-way trip." Island nodded solemnly. "The conduit becomes part of Project Threnody. Their individual consciousness merges with the collective." The Vaynari's six-fingered hand touched Riva's arm gently. "I would do it myself, but my mind is too weak, too close to fading. It requires someone whose consciousness burns bright." The cavern shook violently. Part of the ceiling collapsed, narrowly missing the team. Through the newly formed opening, they could see the sky above, no longer the muted gray of their arrival, but shot through with veins of oily darkness that moved with disturbing purpose. "The wither breaches the upper atmosphere," Island said urgently. "If you choose to help, it must be now. If not, save yourselves. Return to your ship." Riva stared at the tree-like structure, her mind racing. Alliance regulations expressly forbade self-sacrifice missions, but they also forbidden coming to Telmaris in the first place. And if Island was right about the wither spreading beyond this world, "What do I need to do?" she asked. Island's expression might have been relief, or perhaps sadness. "Place your hands on the trunk. The system will recognize your intent and initiate connection." "Colonel," Lieutenant Mora protested, "this is madness. We don't even know if this alien technology will work with human physiology." Island said humans helped build it, Riva replied. And look at the design. Those interfaces are shaped for human hands. But sir, that's an order, Lieutenant. Prepare the team for emergency evacuation. Riva's gaze softened. Tell them I made my choice. Before Mora could protest further, Riva approached the metallic tree. Its surface pulsed with a soft, blue-white light that intensified as she drew near. She placed her palms against the trunk. Immediately, the light surged, flowing up her arms like liquid fire, painless yet overwhelmingly intense. Memories not her own flooded her consciousness. Vinery children playing in vibrant forests. Humans in unfamiliar uniforms working alongside blue-skinned healers. Battles against a darkness that consumed everything it touched. Songs of containment, woven from voice and will and memory. And beneath it all, a sense of purpose so profound it brought tears to her eyes. The cavern floor split open as roots erupted from below, encircling Riva's legs, drawing her into the trunk of the tree. She did not resist. The metal and crystal flowed around her like water, encasing her body even as her mind expanded exponentially, connecting with thousands of others who had come before. Through the eyes of Project Threnody, through the eyes of all who had sacrificed themselves to it, Riva saw the Wither in its entirety. Not a creature of flesh and blood, nor even one of energy or dark matter, but a distortion in reality itself, a hungry void that consumed identity and memory, leaving nothing but empty shells behind. It sensed her awakening. The darkness above the cavern coalesced, plunging downward like a spear aimed at the heart of Project Threnody. But Riva was no longer just Riva. She was thousands of warriors, poets, healers, and sages. She was human determination and Vaynari harmony. As the Wither descended, she raised her voice, not in defiance, but in remembrance. She sang, not with her physical voice, for that was gone now, merged with the machine. She sang with the collective voice of all whose memories she now carried, a song that was part harmony, part mathematical equation, part quantum entanglement, a song that remembered what the Wither wished to make forgotten. The darkness recoiled, writhing like a wounded serpent. Where the song touched it, it dissipated, forced back from reality into the non-space between dimensions from which it had emerged eons ago. Island fell to his knees, tears streaming down faded blue cheeks. The silent march renews, the ancient Vaynari whispered. Feel it. And indeed, the others could feel it too, a rhythm pulsing through the ground beneath their feet, a cadence of life and memory asserting itself against oblivion. Above, the sky began to clear, the oily veins of darkness retreating, dissolving. Lieutenant Mora approached the tree where her commanding officer had stood moments before. The metal and crystal had reshaped itself, forming a humanoid figure at its core, still recognizable as Riva, yet fundamentally transformed, her flesh now interwoven with circuitry and crystal. Her eyes, open but unseeing in the conventional sense, glowed with the same blue-white light that suffused the rest of the structure. Colonel, Mora whispered. The figure's lips moved, but the voice that emerged seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I am here, said Riva, yet not quite Riva. I am here, and I'm everywhere on Telmaris. I am a memory beacon now. Can we extract you somehow? Darian asked, scanning the structure with his instruments. Reverse the process? There is no extraction, Island said gently. She has become the anchor of all memories on Telmaris, the new heart of the Silent March. This was her choice, the voice agreed, but not her end, merely transformation. The cavern trembled again, but differently now. Not the violent shake of destruction, but a gentler movement, like a sleeper stirring from a long nightmare. Through the opening in the ceiling, they could see green beginning to spread across the previously gray landscape, as if fast-forwarding through seasons of recovery. The planet heals, Island explained, wonder in the ancient voice. The Wither fed on identity and memory, and in their absence, life itself began to fade. Now, with the Silent March restored, Telmaris remembers how to live. What about the Venari? Mora asked. Those already taken? Sadness crossed Island's features. Gone, but not forgotten, thanks to your colonel. Their memories live on in her, in the beacon. And perhaps, in time, new Venari will come, drawn by the call that now emanates from this world. And the Wither, contained once more, pushed back into the void between realities. It will try to return, as is its nature. But the beacon will hold it at bay, so long as it endures. Lieutenant Mora stood straighter, a decision forming in her eyes. Then we make sure it endures. I'll report to Alliance Command. They need to know what happened here, what nearly happened to all of us. They will not believe, Island cautioned. They will say you fabricated this tale to justify your commander's disobedience. Then we'll make them believe. Mora turned to the rest of the team. Document everything. Collect samples. Record testimony. We're going to make this the most thoroughly verified first contact in Alliance history. As the team dispersed to carry out her orders, Mora remained behind, her gaze fixed on the transformed figure of her former commander. I'll make sure they know what you did, she promised softly. What you became. The glowing eyes seemed to focus on her momentarily. Tell them, not all planets need warriors. Some need storytellers to remember what they're about to forget. Mora nodded, throat tight with emotion, and turned to leave. But before she reached the exit, the voice called out once more. And Lieutenant? Tell them the Venari were never alone. We were here before. Humans, I mean. This sector holds more forgotten history than the Alliance archives suggest. Perhaps it's time to remember that, too. The journey back to the Caladan was subdued, each member of the team processing what they had witnessed. As they prepared for departure, they watched from orbit as green continued to spread across Telmaris' surface, life reasserting itself with stunning rapidity. Set course for Alliance headquarters. Mora ordered, settling into the command chair that had, until recently, belonged to Colonel Revis Solon. Maximum speed. What will you tell them? Darian asked quietly. Mora's gaze remained fixed on the view screen, on the healing world below. The truth. That humanity once helped save a world the Alliance abandoned, and that we've just done it again. Her fingers tightened on the armrests, and that maybe it's time the Alliance remembered what it was supposed to stand for. As the Caladan engaged its hyperdrive, a signal began broadcasting from Telmaris. Not a distress call this time, but a melody complex and haunting, carrying with it fragments of memories both human and Venari. It spread outward at light speed, touching world after world. On an administrative planet near the galactic core, an Alliance counselor paused in the middle of a policy debate, head tilted as if hearing a distant call. On a military academy world, cadets looked up from their studies, momentarily disoriented by a sense of something important just beyond recognition. On dozens of colony worlds, humans felt a tug of something ancestral, a half-remembered promise made by forebears long gone. The call of Project Threnody, of the memory beacon that had once been Colonel Revis Solon, rippled through the collective consciousness of the Alliance. It carried no specific message, no call to action, merely a reminder. That forgotten did not mean gone, that abandoned did not mean worthless, that remembered meant alive. 6 months later, an Alliance science vessel arrived at Telmaris. Unlike the hasty, unauthorized mission of the Caladan, this was a fully sanctioned expedition, complete with xenobiologists, cultural anthropologists, and diplomatic personnel. They found a world transformed, the forests regrown, the lakes clear, the ancient Venari cities beginning to green with new growth. And at the heart of the largest settlement, a temple of metal and crystal pulsing with blue-white light. Inside, they found Island, no longer the last keeper, but the first teacher, surrounded by a small gathering of Venari who had responded to the call, returning from distant worlds where they had scattered during the diaspora. The Alliance welcomes Telmaris into the community of worlds, the lead diplomat announced formally. We regret our previous oversight. Island's clouded eyes crinkled with something between amusement and resignation. We did not ask to join. Nevertheless, we offer membership with all rights and protections therein. And what changed the Alliance's heart, I wonder? Island asked, though the Ancient One clearly knew the answer. The diplomat shifted uncomfortably. Recent events have prompted a reevaluation of our non-intervention policies. And there have been dreams. Many report hearing music in their sleep. Island nodded, satisfied. The beacon's work. Yes, we've been briefed on the unusual situation with Colonel Solon. The diplomat hesitated. We would like to study the technology involved. For security purposes, the beacon is not technology to be studied. She is a person, transformed but still deserving of respect. Island gestured to the temple walls. But she anticipated your request. Look, the walls illuminated, displaying schematics and equations. The fundamentals of Project Threnody laid bare. A gift, Island explained. Knowledge freely given, with one condition. It must never be weaponized. The memory beacon is for preservation, not destruction. The diplomat nodded solemnly. Understood. In the days that followed, Alliance scientists pored over the information, marveling at the synthesis of technologies they had believed to be incompatible. Historical researchers confirmed what had once seemed impossible. The humans had indeed visited this sector millennia before the official Alliance expansion, using principles of travel long since abandoned in favor of standardized hyperdrive technology. We've been more focused on moving forward than remembering where we've been, one researcher commented. Perhaps that's been our mistake all along. Deep within the heart of Project Threnody, Riva Solon, or what she had become, observed the Alliance's return with a complex mixture of emotions. Her consciousness now encompassed multitudes, yet her core identity remained, watching over Telmaris as it healed and repopulate. She felt no regret for her choice. In becoming the memory beacon, she had found purpose beyond anything her military career could have offered. She had become not just a protector of one world, but a bridge between past and future, between species once connected and long separated. And as she maintained a silent march that held the Wither at bay, she sang, a song of remembrance, a song of warning, a song of hope. It resonated through the quantum fabric of reality, touching minds across the galaxy, reminding them of connections forgotten and promises unfulfilled. Far away, on worlds Riva had never visited in her human life, children looked up at the stars and felt a strange urge to remember. Historians found themselves drawn to overlooked archives. Military strategists began to question doctrine that valued strategic significance over moral obligation. The galaxy was remembering how to listen. 1 year to the day after the Kaladin's unauthorized mission, Lieutenant Mora, now Captain Mora, returned to Telmaris. She brought with her a memorial plaque commissioned by Alliance headquarters, honoring Colonel Riva Solon's sacrifice. But as her shuttle descended through the atmosphere, she realized no manufactured memorial could compete with what already existed, a world reborn, singing with life that had almost been extinguished. Island met her at the landing site, accompanied by a growing community of Vaynari who had answered the beacon's call. The Ancient One looked stronger now, reinvigorated by purpose and hope. "Welcome back, Captain," Island greeted her. "She has been expecting you." In the temple, now expanded and integrated with living wood in the traditional Vaynari style, Mora stood before the crystalline metal form that had once been her commanding officer. The blue-white light pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, acknowledging her presence. "The Alliance is changing," Mora reported, though she knew the beacon was already aware. "Slowly, but changing nonetheless. Non-intervention policies are being reviewed. Historical connections between species are being re-examined." She smiled faintly. "You're making quite an impression." "Not I alone," the voice replied, surrounding her rather than coming from the humanoid figure. "All of us, together. The remembered and the rememberers." "I've been promoted," Mora continued. "The Kaladin is mine now. We're being sent to other worlds on the fringes, places the Alliance previously deemed strategically insignificant. To listen this time, to help where we can. The beginning of wisdom is the recognition of its absence," the voice said, in tones that suggested a quote from some ancient text. "Go well, Captain. Remember what you've seen here. I could hardly forget, Mora replied, with feeling. As she turned to leave, a thought occurred to her. Do you miss it? She asked suddenly. Being human? Being singular? The light pulsed, considering. I miss certain simplicities, the voice admitted. But I have gained immeasurably more than I have lost. I am still Riva Solin, but I am also everyone who came before and everyone who has joined since. I am a collective memory of a world. How could I regret that? Mora nodded, understanding if not entirely comprehending. Farewell, Colonel. Farewell, Captain. Listen well to the forgotten worlds. They have much to teach us all. As Mora's shuttle lifted off, she looked down at the flourishing landscape below. Where once gray devastation had dominated, vibrant forests now spread, interspersed with the graceful architecture of revitalized Venari settlements. And emanating from the central temple, visible even from orbit as a soft glow, the memory beacon continued its silent vigil, remembering, preserving, warning. The Caladan broke orbit and set course for its next destination, another world on the margins, another people in need of being heard. As they engaged the hyperdrive, Mora thought she heard, just for an instant, the haunting melody of the beacon's song. And for the first time in thousands of years, the skies above Telmaris rang with song.